Welcome to Spangled Banter with James and Peyton, a news and social commentary podcast where we rant, you decide.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
There is nothing wrong with America that cannot be cured by what is right with America.
We're going to win so much, you may even get tired of winning.
All right. What is up, America? Welcome to the inaugural podcast episode of Spangled Banter.
Woohoo! Woo! That's right. We rant, you decide, or as I like to say, as American as apple pie and complaining.
I think it's a lot of fun because I was thinking about it and I go, we're 2 days away from Independence Day, so what better way to launch this thing than the week of the birth of this nation?
The week of the birth of the nation of which we all bitch about on a daily basis.
Day in and day out. Forewarning, however, this show will particularly get unadulterated and raw and real at most points. So, if you have a problem with language, fuck it. Sorry.
Parental advisory.
You know what? No, not sorry.
Not sorry.
Fuck
We're
it.
not sorry on the show. Fuck that. All right. So what's your opening? You got a monologue or anything you want to talk about?
Well, I think it might be a good idea for us to kind of talk a little more about, just us and kind of
What we are, what we do.
Yeah, exactly. Let the audience know kind of what we're about.
All
So,
right. Well,
I'll let you launch it, James.
okay. Awesome. Thanks, Peyton. Well, basically, with Star Spangled Banner, each week we're going to examine, we're going to discuss, we're going to ridicule pretty much all things social and political. We're going to do it with wit, we're going to do it with satire, and just a pinch of sarcasm, because that's who we are. In this insane world of Washington, our show seeks to cut through the noise, rise above the divisiveness, and prove that left and right can still be the best of friends. Now, we're not politicians. This show doesn't pretend to be a news source, because let's face it, we don't know jack shit about, news.
Nope.
And nothing on our
Well, neither do news outlets.
right? So, winning. So nothing you're going to hear on our show is new. We're commentary. We're kind of like The Daily Show, but weekly. And we're going to be abrasive. We're going to be frequently irreverent. But, we're always going to be honest. We're always going to give it to you straight. We're never going to bullshit you. We're never going to try to pitch a spin or an agenda. We're not CNN. We're not Fox News, thank God. You might not always agree with us, but we're going to promise to get you thinking. So that's pretty much what our
Or at
show's
least
about.
entertain the
Oh,
hell
yeah,
out
we'll,
of you.
we'll entertain the hell out. Yeah, if you don't think at all, grab some popcorn, grab a stiff drink, and get ready to get entertained.
I'm excited.
Right?
I'm definitely excited. So, well, I would like to know a little bit more about you, Jimbo.
Okay, well,
Let the people know who is James Kaluga.
who they're listening to. Well, I'm a registered independent who leans conservative. Sorry, guys. I know it's not the end thing to be.
Bastard.
All right. I'm a constitutionalist, which means I believe in the Constitution. I don't think you should wipe your ass with it like toilet paper, like some presidents did. But we won't get into that right now.
No, I think we should get into
We
that.
should get into that.
Why not?
Okay. Well,
Let's let the people know
Let's
what we're all
jump
about.
right in.
All right, so who are you speaking of?
I'm not a big fan of our last incarnation of presidents, which happened to be Barack Hussein Obama. Didn't care for that guy. I think he was a big colossal joke. I think he was a large national nightmare that, thank God, is finally over. Doesn't necessarily mean that this next nightmare is going to be any better, but at least Barack Obama is finally over and done. So he's off taking his multi-billion-dollar vacations right now. He's living the life. He doesn't give a shit. Why should I? Problem is, he kind of left our country in a bit of a lurch. So that's why I don't particularly care for Obama. You'll understand more about it when we get into it. You'll hear more about my personal take on the dude. But basically, not a fan. That being said, I'm a fan of common sense. I don't like rhetoric. I don't believe in sound bites and news headlines. I don't take them at face value. I'm not a fan of the news media. I think most of them, left, right, middle, whatever it matters, mostly left and right, are all in it for themselves, their own personal agenda. They're all pitching their own personal spin, and that's what I want this show to be. I want Star Spangled Banter to be an antidote to that particular problem.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I espouse. I also hold fast to the ideas that basically all Americans deserve they deserve a right to life, liberty, and of course the responsible pursuit of happiness. Responsible meaning, you know, you're not doing stupid shit or, you know.
Responsible in
right-
brackets.
Right, responsible
The
in
key
brackets.
word
The key
being
word,
responsible here.
You douche. I believe that pretty much both sides can and we should ultimately get along. There's no excuse to not. There's no excuse to let rhetoric and divisiveness get a hold of you. And I think that once you find that common ground, you guys, we, meaning American citizens, can finally work together for the good of the country. I know it sounds kind of cliche and kind of like, you know, Sorkin-esque on the right side of the aisle, oddly enough. But that's pretty much me in a nutshell. So, Peyton, what do you bring to the table?
What do I bring? Well, I bring KFC.
And beer.
I bring lots of beer. You're going to need lots of beer
I'm
after
gonna-
this show. Unlike my dear friend Jim here, I actually did not have such a disdain for Obama as he did.
Douchebag! Sorry.
Well, I will say that I was actually very critical of Obama when he first stepped into office.
And when you were less obvious.
But when he left, I actually was... now, truth be told, I think when he left, when we saw who was about to come in, Trump, I feel like the majority of the nation went, oh, Obama was not as bad as we all thought he was. But comparing him to what we end up with right now, I mean, he's a saint compared to...
But you know what? I feel sorry for America because with this last election, we basically had the choice between a poke in the eye with a sharp stick or a kick in the nuts. So we're like, okay, I need my eye. I think I can survive with a kick in the nuts. It's going to hurt for a while. I'm going to be out of breath for, you know, a couple of years. But I'll be okay. And I think that's what happened. So I really kind of feel bad because it's like, even on the right side of the aisle, I'm looking at this going, no, this guy is not my first choice, second choice, third choice, fourth choice. He's probably not even anywhere on the top 10. But comparatively to what we could have had, oh, God.
I always liken it to the famous Lewis Black quote, you know, especially with this last election with Clinton and Trump. I liken it to what he said in one of his stand-up specials. Let's face it, America, when you walked into that voting booth, you had a choice between two bowls of shit. The only difference is the smell.
Right?
So, because for me, like, okay, I definitely lean a lot more liberal than Jim does and a lot of other people that I grew up with. I grew up in Alaska and in a very conservative mindset, household, and just community. But over the years, I've definitely been leaning a lot more left on certain issues, specifically with social issues. But I find it hilarious that anyone who leans left, even just the slightest, people think they're like the most hippy-dippy of liberals out there, and I'm like, I'm really not that liberal. Or at least I should say, I'm not really liberal. I'm sane. Like I think I go, all right, well, let's take a look at the basics of what is right and wrong. And for me personally, I saw a lot more things that were happening that were correct or right coming from the left side of the aisle, per se. Granted, that's not to say that there's also not anything right or wrong with, you know, the right side either. But it's, yeah, I definitely... things made more sense to me on a liberal standpoint. So
wow, you're a very intuitive guy then, because nothing fucking makes sense to me on the left. God,
that's why we're here, Jim.
Right.
We're here to
that's
educate.
why we're doing the show, man.
If people that lean extremely one way or the other, we're here to show them.
Are we?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, we hope to. People could listen to this and just go, "What the
fuck
is happening?" But with that said, I also I don't suffer hypocrites or liars on either side. Like, I have been very critical of certain Republican figureheads like Mitch McConnell, like Ted Cruz, you know. But there's also plenty of people on the right that I do like. I extremely support and admire, like John Kasich. John Kasich is one of the few Republicans that I've gone, oh, he's actually standing up against Republicans, going, quit being Republicans.
Dude, you picked the most milquetoast of all Republicans you could possibly find. I like that guy that doesn't stand for shit. He just kind of sits around and, stares at the wall. Like, I don't know.
No, I
don't know.
disagree. Kasich,
He doesn't do it for me. Like, if Kasich were on Tinder, I would swipe left. Like, I don't. He
for
doesn't
me,
have any pizzazz.
Okay,
Like,
he doesn't have a lot of pizzazz, but the thing that I appreciated about him, which is something that's sort of a hot button topic for me, is education reform. And that is something that Kasich was openly vocal about, and so I was very much into what he was saying because of that. So
Well, I gotta agree because my wife's a teacher, and I can't be like, oh, education sucks. Like, I don't think I'd be sleeping on the couch if I did. But
Yeah.
But seriously though, I agree. Education reform is important. So
Right.
I'll give it to that.
Right.
But I don't know. There's just been some things that he's just said or done where I'm just like,
no,
like, what?
don't get me wrong. Like, he's definitely very meek when it comes to the right, but
he's no Donald Trump, that's for sure.
who else is Donald Trump?
Nobody.
Like, name me one
Nope.
other person.
Oh God, Mr. Spacely from the Jetsons? I don't know. I'm trying to find
No. Spacely is like, I would much rather have Spacely as our president than Donald Trump right now.
I'm trying to pick a character, and like everybody that I can think of is a cartoon character, and that's kind of, and that's kind of what my issue is as a conservative. Is I can't get 100% behind Trump. I'm not a super hard, die-hard like, oh, Trump, Trump or death. It's like,
But you still voted for him.
well, because it was either that or a kick in the nuts. I'm like, well, I don't want to borrow Lewis Black. I don't want the bowl of shit that smells worse.
Okay,
Like,
well, what about Gary Johnson?
Meh.
Meh. See, but that wasn't a kick in the nuts. That was a nice little like love tap.
Yeah, but
on the nuts.
here's the problem with Gary. I knew Gary Johnson wasn't going to get in. Here's the problem with third-party candidates. As much as I'm a big proponent of third party,
as am I.
it's going to take at least another 20 to 40 years for a third party to be taken seriously and have actual legitimate ballot turnout. Because look what happened to Gary Johnson. He got on TV, or he got on to wherever he was, and he got lambasted by both the left and the right, and he got lambasted by independents. And I'm like, well, first off, because he looks like a goon, that doesn't help. Secondly, he doesn't have a solid message, and thirdly, he kept waffling on his promises.
That was
his
one
outlook.
thing that bothered, because I actually was a huge Gary Johnson supporter for a while there, just doing some research on him and what he was all about. But over the months, I discovered that, wow, this guy is kind of an idiot.
Yeah, he's kind of a douche.
He was kind of a moron.
And that's what got to me. I'm like, no, I can't. Now,
Plus, it's not good when you see a guy like Gary Johnson running for president, and then you have this epiphany where you go, oh, his running mate Bill Weld would have made a much better president. Seriously, Bill Weld was phenomenal.
Yeah.
I loved that guy. He was great.
And honestly, in all seriousness, and there's probably some listeners that disagree with me, but had Bill Weld actually been first on the ticket, you probably would have seen a much stronger turnout.
Oh, I would fully agree with that, because he brought just a sense of just dry sarcasm, but everything that he spoke about, he was very articulate.
Yep.
He knew his shit.
He didn't insult the shit out of people.
No.
I mean,
yeah.
But again, going back to Johnson, that's why I couldn't throw my hat in the ring.
I
So
feel
at
you.
that point, it was either the reality star or the wench that got everybody killed and lied about it. Okay, which one can I probably put up with? I can't stand the wench that got everybody killed and lied about it, or her husband.
That's an interesting topic.
What, her husband, or the got everybody killed and lied about it?
Well, Bill's interesting just because.
Bill's interesting. Period. Like, we don't have to give a
I
reason.
Just,
Just like,
whether you like him or you hate him.
dude, I'd have a beer with the guy.
I would
I
love
would have totally.
to take him to.
Yep.
Yeah. If we went to Musso and Frank's.
Right.
In downtown Hollywood, I would totally have a whiskey sour with
Absolutely.
that guy. Like,
The guy looks like he's a ton of fun to hang out with.
oh yeah.
But I just wouldn't want to talk politics with him.
That was another interesting thing. As more of a liberal and I guess more democratic leaning, what I found very interesting was the fact that so many liberals had the choice between Bernie Sanders or Hillary Clinton. Essentially, is what it came down to. What I find the most intriguing, though, is how divisive even liberals were with those two party members.
I thought they were going to eat each other alive.
It was ridiculous.
I was kind of waiting for it.
Honestly, like, it hurt. It hurt to see so many Democrats saying, they would support one but not the other.
Well-
Now, granted, that came about from the idea that when Sanders lost the primaries, and all these people were Bernie supporters, they weren't going to vote for Hillary. They didn't want
Right.
to vote for Hillary
Right.
because of not even just the Benghazi thing, of just everything.
Right.
Just, I mean,
And
so
that's
much.
And let me interject really
shade
quick. It's not
follows that
it's
woman
not. It's
everywhere.
not just the Benghazi thing that pisses me off about Hillary thing. It was the whole package deal. The Bernie Sanders thing actually was one of the things that pissed me off.
Oh yeah,
the
I'm surprised
woman-
it
the
didn't
wo-
piss off Sanders,
the
but
woman-
that just shows the integrity of Bernie Sanders.
The guy was a saint. The guy was honestly, out of all of them, I can't believe I'm saying this because I'm not a terribly big Sanders fan, but he was a statesman throughout the entire thing.
Yep.
He was gracious about it. He didn't fly off the handle. He didn't name call. It was okay. It is what it is. I got booted off the hill, so I'm supporting our candidate of our party. So I got to give him props for that. But because of what Hillary and her campaign did, you need some justice. You need a big old heaping helping of karma to come and kick you in the ass.
Yep.
And that's what I was counting on each and every day leading up to the election. So that's why when she did lose, and trust me, it was a big shocker, because I'll be honest, dude, I was ready to wake up the next day with President Clinton. I was completely ready to wake up and be like, okay, it's President Clinton. I'm going to suck it up. The next 4 to 8 years are going to suck ass. But you know what? It is what it is.
Well, now you know how I feel.
Well,
I woke up and went, well, President Trump for 4 to 8 years. Better suck some ass,
suck
as you
some
say.
ass. Well,
So I had the same reaction, but just in a completely different.
So, but to answer your question, why I check Trump, it's like, well, I either get to check somebody who is the quote unquote lesser of two evils, or I don't vote, and then I don't get to bitch about it for the next 4 to 8 years. Because as far as I'm concerned, it's true. I know it's cliche, but it is true. If you don't vote, if you don't let your voice be heard, you don't get to sit there and bitch about it later on. Because, well, you didn't do anything about it. You just sat there and kind of let it ride. I'm like, well, that's kind of like watching a house burn and go, well, I got a hose, but I'm just going to watch the flames.
You do know I've never voted in my life, right? Well,
Get off the show. Well, good night, America.
I know. Good night. Okay,
Come
we're
on
done. No, I've gotten a lot of shit from people about that because they're constantly like, oh, if you do not exercise your right to vote, then they're going to take that right away from me.
I don't think they're going to take it
they're
away.
not gonna
No
take
one's
that
gonna, no
away.
one's going to go, oh, you haven't used it in a while. It's shriveled up. What
Yeah,
the fuck? Like,
it's-
no one's going to
one's gonna
do that.
No one's gonna do
I
that.
do think,
because
however,
essentially, because it's okay. If you're going to tell me, you know, it's your civic duty to vote, I'm like, well, it's also your civic duty to do jury duty.
I hate jury duty.
Yeah, but that's the thing. No one wants to do jury duty.
Except for my wife
because
and her
most of
sisters.
the
They
time-
love jury duty.
Most of the time,
Sorry, babe.
they don't actually compensate you the proper amount.
No.
My wife, God bless her soul, was called for jury duty. They were going to pay her, I think it was somewhere between like $10 to $20 a week.
Oh, don't break the bank.
So I'm like,
What is this, 1952?
yeah. So people are like, yeah, it's your civic duty to do these
No,
things.
no,
well,
no.
fuck that. The civic duty needs to compensate me from taking time off work.
Right?
You know.
If it's my civic duty, you know, I better be seeing some pay for my civic duty because I still got to eat.
Exactly, especially if we're going to be voting for certain people.
Right?
Like, come on. Especially they're always saying, you know, well, if you don't vote, you don't have the right to criticize. Well,
No, you can
that's
still
not
still
true.
criticize.
See, but for me, I don't vote, but I'm critical of everyone.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm not
You can
critical
be, if you don't vote, fine. Everyone's fair game.
Yeah,
Cool.
I will criticize. I criticize people on the left all the time. People are constantly like, "Oh, you're a liberal and
Right.
you love all liberals." I'm
Which
like,
they're totally missing the
no,
point.
No. There have been, and okay, I'm just gonna say it. There have been many times I have wanted to cunt punt Nancy Pelosi.
You too, huh?
So hard.
More than once.
Holy shit! I'm like, it's staggering how I just don't get it. I do not understand at all.
Because she's a holdover. Well, first off, I think she's off her meds. I think her and Maxine Waters need to both row themselves out to shark-infested waters and jump in with chum necklaces. But anyway,
I've been critical of her. Of course, I've been critical of the Clinton administration.
Right.
I have been.
so you have your
You
fair
know.
share of critique against the left, and that's what kind of gets me too when I hear you talk about it. Is like you have these certain friends on Facebook who act as though you're the second coming of, I don't know, Karl Marx or somebody.
Oh my God, I have had the Facebook rants, the most heated debates.
Which, by the way, when we finally do go on Facebook, I can't wait to see some. I'm gonna leave the thread open. I'm gonna leave it open because I want to see this shit. I want to see some of the stuff that people say.
We're taking donations already.
We are, yep.
Top of the list, if you want to donate to us, Jameson whiskey.
What else?
Cocaine.
Right. gift cards to Best Buy, cans of
Xanax.
Mountain Dew. Oh, Xanax, dude, I love that shit.
Some Prozac, just anything to like just numb us from
Right?
what we're getting into.
Oh my God, because I know for a fact we're wading into the fire. And here's the thing about this show, if I may take a quick segue.
Go for it.
A segue from our segue. When I first agreed to do this podcast, I was like, okay, I've always told myself when I get into the film industry, I am never going to let people know my politics. Oops. Oh well. So that's always been my concern, and my concern I think is well founded because when you tell somebody you're on the right or even the left, but especially if you tell somebody you're on the right in the entertainment industry, you're pretty much guaranteeing that your career is going to be relegated to direct-to-video DVD. I don't want to be that person. I want to make it known. I will equally chastise the left and right when they deserve it. And that's the whole point of the show, is we're here, everyone's fair game on this show. Yeah, we may both have our political views, but you're also going to hear us cross over the aisle a few times. So don't be surprised about that. But I want it said.
Oh, I can attest to that. Like the times that Jim and I have talked, Jim definitely leans much more left when it comes to, especially environmental issues.
Right. I'm big on the environment. I think
yeah.
that you have to be responsible with the environment.
And
I'm
I've
a huge
also
conservationist.
Right, and I've also leaned much more right on issues with. Okay, look, finances is one. I'm still trying to figure that one out. The fiscal.
Everybody's trying to figure that one. Even the Fed is like, what's happening?
Yeah.
So.
Because a little more background on me. I grew up much more conservatively. You know, like I said, I grew up in a very small town in Alaska. I grew up in a very Southern Baptist environment, and
Wow, you were more right than I was.
It was pretty bad. But
You're like those West Barrel guys that like stand out there.
oh no.
No?
We weren't that bad.
Oh,
but
God, thank God.
But I wouldn't have been surprised if it happened.
It's like, oh, there it is. There's the sign.
Yeah. But
Hey,
for me though, like because I grew up much more conservatively, I get it. Whenever conservatives speak about certain issues like gun laws or oil or things like that, I get it. I get it because I grew up in that and I understand. And I've always tried to be, as best as I can be, a voice of reason to go, okay, well, wait a second. Like, let's discuss this a little bit, you know?
Right.
But it's always felt like but most of the time whenever I speak to conservatives, like, it's always like, it's like shouting at a brick wall.
Welcome to my world.
It's ridiculous. So, but I actually do have some conservative friends that have been very.
You do.
I do. Aside from Jim,
Right? Some of them make me look like a liberal. I will just...
Oh, they do. Oh, God, do they do?
I'm thinking of one guy. I'm not going to say his name, but
We won't say his
we won't
name.
say his name. But
We've had many
dude,
discussions about it.
Dude.
But okay, but this guy I will there is one conservative friend of mine and I will mention his name and I hope he doesn't kill me for this, but I don't care.
Well,
a friend of mine,
that's we need a host for the show.
That's true. For me, okay, a friend of mine I grew up with in high school. His name is Michael Thompson, and this guy is about as right as you can get.
Without falling off.
Yeah, he's a gun-toting Marine Corps vet. Actually, I think he's still
Like active duty
Wait,
or
is he in the
reserve
Marines?
duty?
He's either in the Marines or the Navy.
He's
I don't
gonna
remember
kill
which
you
one.
now, especially if you get
The
to
fact,
emergency
the
duty.
fact that I can't figure
Can't
out which
figure it out,
branch
yep.
he's in. No, he is a very good friend of mine, but he's very big into big monster trucks and all the assault rifles he can get his hands on. And I mean, this guy is like as backwoods as you can get. But I love the guy to death.
Right?
He's a phenomenal guy. But I was talking to him once about politics and about certain things, and of course it got kind of heated and stuff. But I tried to get him to see more of my viewpoint as well as me seeing his viewpoint as well. And he had this compliment. He goes, "See, this is why I like you, Peyton, is because you're one of those liberals who will actually listen to us."
You are.
He goes,
You
most of the
are.
time,
Why do you think you're on the show?
and I agree with, I agree with this. Most of the time, liberals, like, they refuse to actually listen to what the conservative side is saying.
Violently
you know?
so.
Oh yeah, no, it's gotten pretty bad.
They'll burn their own universities just so they don't have to listen to us.
Okay, that kind of shit bugged
They're
the
coming
hell
to
out.
Berkeley. Burn the place down. Is that Ann Coulter? Fuck her. I want the library up in flames by noon. Like I
Well, truth be told, fuck Ann Coulter.
right. I'd burn the library down just to keep.
When
her
your
up.
mantra is I'm a Christian first and a hate-filled, bigoted woman second.
Oh God.
I mean, I don't mean to question your faith, but
I question your faith.
well, here we go. So, Now
but you see?
that stuff I definitely agree with the conservative side. Of
Right.
like, you know what? Yes, we were all upset. Now, the peaceful protests and the marches that went on, like the Women's March, these things, I appreciated those things. But when it started to get like rioting and like
Exactly.
smashing windows of a Bank of America
Right.
and a Starbucks,
Burning
that's
cop
where
cars and
me
shit.
as a liberal is going, oh, for God's sake.
Right.
Like, this is not the way to go about doing
Nope.
this. The second you cross that line
It's over.
into violent chaos,
It's over.
Discussion
And that's
over,
the thing.
you're in the wrong.
As a
I'm sorry.
conservative, I can't say shit about you if you're peacefully protesting because that's your God-given American right, or at least that's your constitutionally given American right. I can't say anything about that. But the minute you start tossing cop cars and beating up quote-unquote Trump supporters without ever actually checking to see if they are in fact a Trump supporter, your argument is invalid at that point because you've now crossed the line from exercising my constitutional rights to just being a douchebag.
And the same goes for those that are Trump supporters that have attacked, you know, women with hijabs,
Right.
Or any
Or just-
person of, you know,
Or just punch people in the face for being on the left. I'm like, that's why when I see,
Yeah.
you know, during these debates and these rallies for these Trump rallies during the election, you'd see Trump supporters punching people in the face. Granted, it wasn't an epidemic. You didn't have like a line of people punching liberals as they came down the stairs. But whenever I would see that, I'd be like, you gotta be kidding me. First off, that doesn't make the right look any better. It doesn't bring anybody over to your side. And it definitely doesn't make the candidate look good when you're doing that kind of thing. So, yeah, it definitely swings both ways. If you're going to be a complete Neanderthal about the whole thing and throw reason to the wind,
Right.
you don't, I'm sorry, but no one has to listen to you at that
it's
point.
the same with liberals though. Like that one video of who's that alt-right neo-Nazi guy? What is his name?
Which one?
The famous one.
Which one? You're not making it easy on me, Peyton.
The one that got punched in the face.
Oh.
Remember, there was that guy, he was like trying to do like some news thing, and
Oh.
someone walked up to him and just decked him right in the face.
Not O'Reilly.
No, it wasn't O'Reilly.
God, who was it? I don't know.
Although I wouldn't be surprised if O'Reilly
Right?
came out
I wouldn't
as
be
a-
surprised.
as a neo-Nazi.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if Riley got punched in the face on a daily basis. You
There
know.
was, and I hate that I don't have his name, and I can't
We
find
got
it
it. But this is why we
anywhere.
need to do. We're gonna do our research, folks. We're gonna do our research before every episode. I promise you. So we won't leave you hanging.
This is more of just a taste of what you're walking into.
Right. Good luck.
But there was this neo-Nazi that was promoting, I don't know, something that had to do with Trump in some regard.
I don't know.
And some guy, some liberal, just walks up and just punches him right in the face. Now, here's the thing. Yes, in my head, you have no idea how much I would love to just walk up to somebody
Who's a neo-Nazi?
and punch him right in the face.
Yeah, I would do that
Yeah.
if I could get away with it.
The problem is that that's not right.
No.
As much as I would like to
Right.
do that to a
Well, that's
Nazi,
the thing. That's
it's still not right.
That's the whole thing with this violent protest thing. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. I mean, I technically can go outside and set fire to a house and kick a baby while I'm at it, and maybe push an old woman into the street into oncoming traffic.
God, dude, what kind of dreams do you have?
Ah, dude, you have no idea. But it doesn't mean I should. It doesn't mean I should, and it doesn't mean anyone's going to look fondly on me for doing it. And that's what happens when you have these both liberals and conservatives, but especially liberals, in my opinion, because they're the loudest, who get out there and just pull this shit, punch people in faces, knock people down, scream and rant and rave, and then say, "Oh, but you need to agree with me." On what?
Not all liberals are that loud, Jim.
Damn,
We're not that loud.
I got to adjust the gain on.
That's why I'm back here.
Right. Anyway, see my point. See what the problem is. But honestly, seriously, that's my biggest complaint about liberals. At least on the far left. Not all liberals are that way. I know a number of liberals that are actually pretty tame.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. They dwell well within the boundaries of the Constitution. They do things responsibly. Again, they're responsible pursuit of happiness. I just said responsible in a weird 20-syllable way.
What are words?
What are words? It's what happens when you become a writer, folks. Go to school, kids. Be a writer.
You'll have no idea what the fuck you're doing. Go
Nope.
on.
Nope. Anyway, I just lost my train of thought with that. Anyway, my point is, there's also those on the far left that just negate everything that everybody on the middle left or moderate left do.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, this is the problem. This is why nothing ever gets done. Because
Well, that's why there's like certain liberals that I am all about. Like right now, the one liberal on the rise that I'm really looking forward to seeing where he goes and what he does is Cory Booker.
Cory Booker.
Yeah, he labels himself more as a neo-libertarian, I think.
He's a neo-libertarian.
I don't know. Everything's neo at this point. I mean, we're literally a half step away from the Matrix. Like, with just how nuts this whole thing has gotten. He's somebody that, like, I've done some reading on Cory Booker, and he's definitely gotten a lot of flack from the left, and this I agree with, because he's somebody who has come out in support of big pharma companies, and that's very rare for someone who labels themselves Democrat. But he has a lot of ideas in the social realm that I think can work. Then I think that they can work for both sides.
Well, that's the thing, and it's finding those little diamonds in the rough, those gems in the political sphere. That's what I want politics to be. I want politics to be people who are actually willing to actually work together for the good of the country, and going, look, we've got problems, you've got problems, I've got problems, but you know what? Let's work past that and do the best we can to preserve the republic we've got, because right now, it ain't happening, folks.
I say this all the time. It frustrates me whenever people say things like, you need to be right-wing or you need to be left-wing. And in my head, I'm going,
why?
You know that a bald eagle has 2 wings, right? You need 2 wings to fly.
Exactly.
So it frustrates me whenever people are like, oh, those ignorant right-wingers or those
hippie dip left-wingers.
Yeah. It's just like, no, you need both of them in order to make this thing work.
Exactly.
The problem is that both sides don't. Most of the time, they don't want to come together and make it work, you know?
But that's what we're going to try to do for you guys here. We got to take a break, but when we come back, we're going to rant, talk more, maybe get a beer, 2, 3, and and fill your ear more with our ramblings. So stay tuned.
And we're back! Woo!
And better than ever. Actually, drunker than ever, because I found the beer.
He did.
Oh, it's going to be a good show now, folks.
I needed this.
Yeah.
It's been a hell of a week.
Oh, God. I think it's been a hell of a
Actually,
week.
I find it interesting, only because of the track record of Donald Trump, is it's actually been relatively quiet.
I'm kind of scared.
I am too. Like, something, it's
like,
building up
it's
to
like waiting
something.
for the big one. You're like, oh, shit. Here comes the 8.5.
Oh, God.
I mean, in all respects, and again, being the more conservative, I'm very happy whenever there's nothing, whenever there's no noise from the Trump White House. I'm very happy about that.
Yeah.
I still think the guy needs to close down his Twitter. Do you know that
Holy shit.
there was a
How?
poll that just
How?
came out recently. 75% of Americans believe that his Twitter, his tweets are hurting his agenda, and I wholeheartedly agree.
I would 100% on board with
and
that.
here's why. Because, okay, granted, yes, his excuse is, well, it's a modern presidency, we need to get with the modern times, blah blah blah. Fine, I understand it's the modern presidency, but you have a communications team, you have a staff solely tasked.
Well,
with your
hang
communication.
Hang on, back up there. His communications staff is literally Sean Spicer and Kellyanne Conway. Do we really think they're going to do a better job?
Well, that's why he brought in, what's her face, Huckabee's daughter.
Really? When did that happen?
A while ago. She's technically the filler for Spicer, and it sounds like she'll probably...
Can she fill in forever for Spicer?
It sounds like that's probably what she's going to end up doing eventually, because
Thank God.
it sounds like Spicer's going to move to, like, he's getting bumped up. But now don't get...
where? Nigeria?
I don't know where. But don't get
Please?
too excited though, because if you don't think Spicer takes no bullshit from the press, Sanders doesn't take any bullshit either.
Well,
In fact, she takes even less. Now, she does it with a little bit of decorum, but she definitely puts the press, rightfully so, in their place.
I'm just sick and tired of Trump saying something and then Spicer and Conway coming out going, well, this is what he actually meant.
Well,
when
that's
he
why he's
said
got to
that."
stop
That's
fucking
so-
tweeting.
I'm just like, no, clearly he meant what he said when he
Right.
went on that tirade on Twitter.
It's like if I was a...
That Twywade.
Twywade? Did you just say Twywade? Wow. The beer's kicking in already, folks.
It's very tasty.
Right? Here's what I consider Trump and his staff to be. It's almost like they're his legal counsel, and he's the drunken, guy on the stand who's just saying shit that comes out of his mouth. And like, well, no, what he meant to say, Your Honor, was, he didn't actually stab that guy 4 times with the knife that he sharpened himself. He didn't say that.
Like, even Johnny Cochran couldn't get that guy off.
That's
Like, there's no way.
And that's as a conservative, it's really hard for me because as much as I love his agenda, as far as his spelled out agenda, not the agenda that he says he's going to do and then the agenda that he does. I'm talking the stuff that he's
So like a actual politician.
right. I'm talking about the stuff he's actually proposed to do.
That pissed me off so much is that everybody was like, oh, Trump is going to be the greatest president because he's not a politician. And then literally from day goddamn one, he's acting like a politician. I'm like,
Well, yes, he is and he isn't. He is. Well, let's go with the isn't first because I can defend that better than the is. He isn't. He is not. Come on, James.
He's not acting like a
politician because he actually did set out to do in a very short span of time what he said he was going to do, regardless of whether it was a successful thing or not. He did set out to do what a majority of what he said he was going to do, whether it was getting the ball rolling on rolling back executive orders, whether it was VA affairs, whether it was what you name it. He actually did start to set out to do what he said he was going to do. Now, I don't think for a minute
so ISIS is gone?
you're not going to kill ISIS in 2 days, dude.
He said 30.
You're going to kill ISIS in 30 years. Here, look, okay, well, maybe 30 years.
That was part of his
Right.
agenda.
Well, he's not done, dude.
We're at 160
See,
days
here's-
now.
here's the
He's
thing. Here's the
130 past due.
I love it when people, both on the left and the right, whether it's a president on the left, everybody on the right goes, he hasn't done enough yet. And when it's the president on the right, everybody goes, he hasn't done shit yet. I'm like, dude, you know how long it takes to turn the train wreck that the Obama administration had around for 8 years?
Okay, but truth be told, there was a lot that there was a train wreck that Bush had left that Obama had to fix as well.
Agreed. And that's the same. That's why he got the same kind of flack. So
Yeah.
the whole idea of what has Trump done? Why is he taking so long? Blah blah blah. I'm like, you try turning a battleship. Now that being said, I think personally, from my standpoint, he has done more than whether you think it's right or wrong. That's a whole point for another discussion. Whether you think it's right or wrong, he has done more than I think than the previous administration has done, or the previous several administrations have done in their first 100 and some odd days.
Okay, I will give you that. The problem, however, though, is that you're looking at it from a standpoint of quantity over quality.
Well,
I mean,
that's politics, dude. No one's ever saying, "Oh, dude, that's a quality politician." There, I've never heard that come out of anybody's mouth.
yeah, I'll give you that. No, come on. There's been like, you know.
I mean, yeah, there are good politicians. JFK, FDR, Ronald Reagan. They're good politicians out there.
That's funny coming from you.
About what?
JFK.
Because he'd be a conservative today. If you ever actually read his agenda as it is then compared to now, the liberals would never accept that guy.
Liberals didn't accept him then either. That's
Right.
why they had him killed.
Exactly. Oh! Well, see you around, America. This has been Star Spangled Banter. We're your hosts.
Man. I'm next.
Yep, that's it. You're great, dude. Just put us on the hit list. But anyway.
No, I agree.
But that's what I'm saying. I mean, there are those both on the left and the right that are good, but they are few and they are far between.
Yeah,
You know,
I agree.
when you're looking for a perfect politician, and I think that's what a lot of the problem is a lot of people are looking for that perfect silver bullet of a politician. Pardon the pun. We're just gonna keep going with that analogy.
Yep.
If you're looking for the perfect president, you are never going to find the perfect president because they either have some sort of scandal or there's some skeleton in the closet or they don't do something that you think they should be doing, whether you're on the left or the right, that's not good enough for you, and therefore they are a horrible president.
Just out of curiosity, who is your favorite president?
Ronald Reagan.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
And there are those on the left that give me shit for that. There's some on the right too, but there are those on the left that give me shit. They go, what about Iran-Contra? What about the homeless thing? What about the gay right? What about blah blah? I'm like, yeah, okay, fine. Those are first off, some of those are just snippets. Secondly, some of those didn't actually occur the way they said they did.
I put the AIDS crisis more on
The
Nancy
AIDS
than I did
crisis-
Ronald. I put that more because she really was more of the one that should have been. From what I know of what she did and what she was doing, I definitely think that she dropped the ball in making sure that was, you know. But I also understand that the AIDS crisis, no one knew what the
It
fuck
was new.
to do with
It was new. I was watching that. By the way, as much as I hate CNN, they do put on really good specials about like the 60s and 70s.
Oh, God, they're phenomenal.
Dynamite. Anyway, I was watching the one on the 80s, and they were talking about the AIDS epidemic and when that happened and the response and all that. And not only politicians, dude, scientists didn't know what the fuck was going on.
Yeah.
They had no idea what it was. They had no idea how it was spread. For 3-4 years straight, they thought just by shaking hands you'd get AIDS. I mean, nobody knew exactly how it worked. And don't forget, too, Nancy was a product of her time.
Oh yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
they all were product of their time.
Everyone was.
You know,
yeah.
nobody had ever come across this kind of thing before, and they didn't know how to address it. So they addressed it in a way that was a little less than, it might have come across as disingenuous, but it was just a product of their time. So that's why I say,
Right. It's always one of those, like, they turned their backs because that was what they knew
right,
to
that's
do.
what they need to
Like,
do. That's what.
I mean, the movie Revolutionary Road is a great.
It's a
you
great
know,
example of
great
all
example of what the baby boomer generation was all about. They just
Exactly.
turned their backs because they'd rather ignore it than
face it.
Than face it.
Exactly,
You know?
and because that's what their parents did, and so on and
Yeah.
so forth.
So I get it, but
yeah.
at the same time, it's like, well, this is a crazy thing that
Right.
needs to be addressed.
And I will definitely agree they dropped the ball.
Oh.
I will definitely
And what a
wholeheartedly
ball.
agree. They dropped it.
It was bad.
It was bad.
So.
But that being said, he is my favorite president. My second favorite president, believe it or not, is JFK.
All right.
Just because of what he espoused and what he was saying, what he talked about. If you hear listen to his inaugural speech, listen to his State of the Union speeches, listen to the speeches he made while on national television. Not only, yes, did they lean a little moderately conservative, but more importantly, they lean American. And that's, to me, that's what makes a president. It's not
Yeah.
left or right. It's what are you going to do for the country? What are you going to do for us that's good for everybody as a whole?
Right.
You know, and
Yeah.
and to me, that's what JFK was really going for.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, they killed him for it. Oh, we're gonna die. But that's my thought.
I'll give you that. All right, I could dig it. I think for me, my favorite president, probably because I did a report on him when I was like 10 years old in 5th grade, but and I wish I could remember more from that report that I did. But I would definitely say my favorite president has been Teddy Roosevelt.
He was definitely a character, dude.
Oh, yeah.
I'll dare
Oh,
say
yeah.
he was a bombastic guy all around.
Oh yeah.
He,
Well, but he was definitely a president that didn't take shit from anybody.
I think he and
either.
Trump would get along. As
In a weird
as
way.
drinking buddies, maybe.
His drinking or his hunting buddies.
Right? That rhino was huge.
Granted, the big game hunting that Roosevelt did, I probably, like, right now, I'm probably not a big fan of that, because, like,
Yeah, it's not really in vogue anymore.
big game hunting for the sake of big game
Dude,
hunting is kind of taboo.
Right, look what happened to that dentist with the frickin', what was it, the lion or the elephant or
truth be
whatever
told,
the hell.
that
That was
was-
pretty bad.
that was,
you can't
yeah.
you can't defend when there's pictures and actual documentation. I'm like, you're screwed,
It's
dude.
bad. It was
There's
bad.
nothing I can do
Oh,
for you.
yeah. I don't know. It just he had a very Roosevelt. He had a very just guns ablazing, pun intended,
Right.
way of approaching politics, and he got a lot of shit done.
Yeah.
And I thought that he wasn't. He was, in a same way like me, he didn't suffer hypocrites and liars. He was just like, no, this is how it is. This is how it needs to be. And I always feel like the best presidents, I could just be speaking out of my ass, but I feel like the best presidents in history are the ones that others consistently tried to sabotage.
Really?
Think about it.
Do tell.
Well, because with Teddy Roosevelt, his successors, William Taft and Woodrow Wilson,
Not the greatest.
Yeah, they're not the greatest,
Not
but
the
they went on these huge campaigns to get him out of office.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, like it was ridiculous. I mean, but even so, like JFK,
Right.
just they tried to the whole political theory about whether or not it was them that killed him or not.
Right.
It's always interesting to see that it seems as if the better ones, the ones that really go down in history, are the ones that challenged the status quo while still weirdly adhering to the status quo.
It's like that adage in Hollywood where it's the same but different.
Yeah, exactly.
That's kind of what it was. It gave us the same thing that we're used to,
Yeah,
but with a different spin. It's like, oh, he's still getting shit done, but he's doing it on his terms.
yeah.
Now, that being said, using Roosevelt as an example, I don't think Teddy Roosevelt would be able to get half the shit done today with the government we have today.
That's the thing. That's the other thing too, is that I feel like in the past, Congress and the House did not have as much power.
You mean the Senate and the House? Congress is the House.
Okay, well, clearly I have no idea what I'm talking
What a
about.
douchebag!
See? All right. Well, why don't you educate our fans, Jim,
About what?
the difference?
Well, okay. Congress is the House and the Senate combined. It is housed in the Capitol building of Washington, D.C. The House and Senate are the wings of Congress. That's all I got.
This has been Civics 101 with Jim Kaluka.
And that's as far as I stayed awake in Civics 101.
But it seemed like there was much more limited power within the legislature.
Well, I think we still adhered to the classic view that politicians should only be in there long enough for a few years just to do a little bit of work and then get out and go back to the farm.
Right.
We weren't stuck in the career politician mode yet.
Exactly, and that's the difference, is that
Right.
back then, it was a civic duty thing. As much as I sometimes hate the idea of civic duty, I get it.
Right.
But I would rather have that, because to them, politics was more of a hobby than an
Right.
actual job.
Right.
But yeah, the second we made, like, career politicians,
Well-
we've made political science now an actual degree. you can
Exactly,
get.
and that's when politicians, and I feel like I'm going to segue for a minute, but I'll come back. That's when politicians started with their personal and political agendas, because they had 40, 50 plus years to do it now. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, now I can push the shit I couldn't before because I only had 2 years to do it. So I think that's why back in the day Congress wasn't as, I don't say invasive because it's kind of weird to say, but
I'll say invasive.
yeah, okay. They probably weren't as invasive as they are now.
Leave it to the liberal to say invasive.
Right? The liberal said it, you guys, not me.
Liberal said it. It must be fake news.
If you are fake news. But no, I feel honestly that's a big part of what did it, is you have an unchecked Congress now, and you have all this new media, you have all this technology, you have all of these voices. Again, like I said earlier when we were talking about the show, all these voices saying different things.
Well, it's frustrating that we have term limits for the president, but yet Scalia was able to sit in the Supreme Court for how many decades?
Well, that's the thing. The Supreme Court, the only way you can get out of the Supreme Court is either by resigning or dying. Think about that.
That's stupid. I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
right?
that's
Because-
the judicial and the legislative branch. The fact that
Because-
there are no term limits on any fucking one of those.
Well, here's why why I have a little bit of an issue with the term limits on the judicial branch. Granted, right now I'm kind of happy because it's kind of leaning conservative, so yay. But when you don't have a term limit on the I can't even say that word, the judicial branch,
Right.
you now have the opportunity to change the country for several generations because you have justices that lean one way or the other,
Right.
who are always going to vote that way. So you're going to have, either 50 years of liberalism or 50 years of conservatism, and you're never going to have, as far as I'm concerned, you're never going to have a middle ground.
Right.
You're never going to. Because listen, if you're 5-4, the majority still takes it. So if the majority is conservative, they're the 5. The majority, or if the majority is Democrat or liberal. You see what I'm saying? Without term limits, you run the risk of altering the landscape socially and politically for generations.
And we've seen that. We've seen, a huge boost of that, like just depending on, what decade you're thinking of, like in the 40s and the 50s, things were much more conservative during those times.
Yep.
And then the 60s and the 70s, things were way more liberal in
Yep.
those times,
And then it kind of swayed a little bit back in the 80s, and then went back again in the, the late 80s, early 90s, all
Yeah.
the way up till 2010. But that's just the name of the game, and that's why I think term limits are important. All of
Term
them.
limits are, I think that they're necessary. Like, and that's the thing too that I think is a good place for us to be at right now in sort of where we're at in this episode, is that I have spoken to so many liberals and conservatives that have all agreed across the entire board, term limits are necessary.
That's the one thing both sides can always agree on is
Term limits. Yes, absolutely.
Because
as much as I appreciate people like Bernie Sanders and people like Elizabeth Warren, the problem is that those people should not be allowed to be in there for as long as they are.
No, absolutely not. The Founding Fathers never intended you to be in there for life or for 50, 60 plus years. The
Yeah.
Founding Fathers designed it to where you get elected, you do your civic duty for maybe 4 years or 8 years or whatever,
Yeah.
and then you go back to the farm,
Yep.
and that's it. And we don't hear about you again.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
You don't have that now.
I'm curious when did that begin? I think that's something that we could research for
We
a
need to
future
research,
episode.
yeah, we definitely need
Is
to
when
research.
exactly did the idea of career politicians become implemented?
If I had to guess, I would probably say that's a 20th century epidemic. I would say
I would agree with that.
probably within the early 20th century, around maybe 1920s and 30s. Probably around the time of the Great Depression era.
Who was that?
That was
Coolidge?
That was Coolidge and then Roosevelt, right?
No.
No.
Coolidge, then Hoover.
Coolidge, Hoover, and then Roosevelt.
Then Roosevelt.
Yeah.
All right.
So I think that's those three administrations. I think is where you probably saw the shift.
But that's also interesting that maybe maybe they thought career politicians was a good idea because of what happened with the Great Depression.
Right.
I feel like they thought, oh shit, we need job security.
right. That's what better job security than
that,
60
you know?
years of being a congressman.
Exactly. Huh.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, worth looking up for next episode.
more you know.
Get that star out of here.
Yeah, term limits I think is the number one thing, you know, and yeah, I'd agree with that. I think most can agree with that.
Look at that. We've come to an agreement on this show. Term
Look
limits,
at
folks.
that term limits. So
For
I
that.
definitely would say too is just kind of going off a little more about term limits in regards to I mean, hell, even the executive branch. I mean, I get it. I get that you don't want one singular person to have that much power for a long period of time.
Right. That's called a monarchy.
Right, exactly. But at the same time, and I'm gonna challenge this a little bit. Is the president that all important? Is he really? Is he all that powerful? Is he really that?
Yes and no. First off, yes, as to the fact that the president sets policy and agenda, and as such, he sets the tone. He or she sets the tone in the country.
Right.
Politically. No, because they also have a checks and balance system, and you have Congress.
Right.
That can either veto them, override them, or, as we've seen multiple times, ignore them and then bitch about them.
See, but that's the problem, though, is that we've seen a decline in the way that the checks and balances in this country work. How do we get that back?
I don't know.
Audience, what do you say?
Right? What are you weighing? Comment here on our Facebook page.
You see my finger pointing down?
Going down, right? It's pointing
That's
down right
where you
now.
comment.
Right? That's a good question. I don't know how. Other than stop making it a personal agenda and stop trying to be the loudest voice in the room, because I think that's what the problem is right now. You've got all these politicians that are they're trying to push their own agenda, trying to be the loudest, and they're not letting the system do what it's designed to do. They're not letting it organically exist.
Right.
And I think if we take, it's gonna sound weird, but if we take the political out of politics, that's how you do it. You make it to where it's not about the party, it's not about the person, it's about the country.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what it has to come back down to. Is
But I feel like the only way that's going to happen is if we get money out of politics.
Again, see, it's a circular logic argument. I don't know. Again.
Oh, the vicious cycle we live in.
Right? We're gonna. God, people's heads are gonna be exploding after these episodes are over. What would you do?
Mine already is.
Right? It's probably the beer.
Yeah, I feel like the lack of checks and balances is just it's egregious, and it's just.
Well, here's my opinion why I think we've had, and I'm coming at it from a conservative point of view, so bear with me. I think the reason why we're having a lot recently, and I think it's happened more than just the past 8 years, but it was really noticeable for me as a conservative in the past 8 years, where you had a president who seemingly was allowed to do whatever, and nobody, and I'm talking about the pussies on the right, nobody stopped him. Nobody went, oh hey, this might be a little bit of a bad idea, you might want to rein it in there, Barry. Nobody said anything. And I think what they did is they kind of set a tone of the president can do whatever he wants now, and let's not say anything. You basically had this wussified Congress who is not doing what they're supposed to be doing, which is making sure that the president does not become monarch.
Well, and that's what's crazy is that so many people are wanting to push for an impeachment of Donald Trump. But the frustrating thing is, and John Oliver said it best, he was saying, like...
Surprisingly. John, if you're listening, find another job, dude.
John, if you're listening, don't. I love you, John.
Not so much.
For me, what John Oliver said it best, though, is that a liberal, was telling other liberals, okay, look, the idea of impeaching Trump is a good idea. It's not a sane one. And the reason why is because look at the succession of what we would get after Donald Trump. We would get Mike Pence and then Paul Ryan.
And you and I have already gone through the whole succession line. It don't get good for
It doesn't get
liberals.
good for anybody.
Doesn't.
Because
Nobody
at some point down that line, Betsy fucking DeVos is gonna sit.
Whackity schmackity down.
Warpath Payton is coming out.
Go for it.
And I'm going to...
Just don't lean too close to the mic.
I'm just gonna... Okay, for those of you out there, some of you know, some of you will learn, there is a side of me I was deemed Warpath Payton because I go on these fucking tirades about how much I cannot stand certain people, certain events, certain situations, and Devi, I can't even say her name, I'm so mad. Betsy DeVos is one of them. Holy shit. As somebody who is all about education reform, learning that somebody who is essentially a Neanderthal when it comes to education, like, I'm shaking. Like, she just makes me so fucking mad all the time. It's
even I, as a conservative, can't defend her. I really can't. I watched the hearings, and I'm like,
you idiot.
I can't.
Idiot. I just, like, she wants to cut so much funding from public education. She wants to promote private education. And I grew up in a private education.
Right. Me too.
And it sucked. I'm sorry. There were certain teachers, certain elements of the environment, but for the most part, private education, it doesn't work, because the problem is that the majority of kids that end up in private education are raised by parents who do not give a shit about their kids. So they end up getting all of the bullies, all of the slack jaws, all of the lazy fucknuts. They end up getting all of these people in these private educations because the parents say, oh, well, I don't want to step up and be a parent, so I'm going to send my kid to a private institution, have the teachers there straighten them out.
Right.
Have them smack their kids with a Bible and make them come to Jesus.
Is that, beside the Jesus thing, is that not a problem of most parents nowadays? They don't want to be a parent. It's just like, oh, send them off to school and let the teacher handle it out.
It's true. It's worse in the private. It's worse in the private school sector.
Let me tell you something.
It's way worse.
My wife is a teacher. Now, granted, my wife teaches special education, specifically autism, but she still teaches children in the public school system. Parents, you need to... Now it's my turn to fucking warpat. You need to fucking man up. You need to actually do your job, be a parent, and if you're not ready to be a parent, don't do the deed. Use a condom. If you're not ready to be a parent, use the self-service pump. Let's stop having other people suffer for your mistakes. But I do agree with you there. I think whether it's private or public, I think it's a problem of parents on both sides of the issue.
Oh yeah, I absolutely agree.
Now,
but at the same time, just going back to Betsy,
because why not?
It's so frustrating. Just the most dumbfounded expressions on her face when people ask the simplest of questions. Literally, she would fail on that Jeff Foxworthy show. Are you smarter than a fifth grader? She would lose just so badly. It just sickens me how much she just does not care. I don't even think she doesn't. It's not so much she doesn't care. She just doesn't know.
She doesn't know.
She doesn't know better.
Now, granted, if she's willing to learn, great. But I don't think we should have elected somebody or appointed somebody who is not at that point yet. You know what I'm saying? It's like
yeah.
It's like if if you haven't taken the SATs to get into college, like, well, you should kind of go through them to know what you're doing. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's a bad analogy, but I mean, yes, well, I am for school vouchers. I am for school choice. I am all for that. I think it would help out immensely. However, let's have a Secretary of Education that knows some shit about education, right?
Oh my word! Like, I mean, the heavens parted when that video came out, when she was the
I know which one you're talking
speaker at that university, and they just booed the hell out of her. Oh my word! I saw the face of God in that moment, dude.
That being said, I don't particularly care for that response from people, but I understand. I understand their frustrations.
I do too. I actually think the better protest that happened was when Mike Pence was speaking at... Nope. What, that one?
Everybody fucking loses their diploma who gets up and leaves the room.
Oh, I disagree.
I'm sorry,
I disagree.
Dude, I'm sorry. If you cannot fucking handle...
That was more respectful than what they did with Betsy.
Well, yeah, okay, yeah. Yes and no. Yes, because it wasn't vocal. They just got up and left. No,
they just got up and walked away.
No, because they're a bunch of butthurt snowflake douchebags that I can't handle. I can't handle the guy who's talking that I didn't elect. So I'm gonna leave because that's how I handle things as an adult in this world.
Okay,
now.
you and your conservative friends need to drop the snowflake term.
Nope.
I hate that term so much.
Look at that. We're already in an hour. We're already getting into the meat of it.
I hate that
Here's
term.
why we use that term. Because it's where do I begin? Because those who we apply it to are easily offended, are fragile, are usually constantly affected by the littlest change, and they go overboard. Like a blizzard. I mean, I don't know how to thoroughly explain it other than they're fragile, and they literally melt.
But at the same time, but individually, they're fragile. However, going off of what you just said, if I can be a
I know what analogy you're gonna use. Blah blah blah.
A blizzard is strong.
Hey,
blah, no. I get my turn. You shut the fuck up.
It's getting heated, folks.
For me, like a blizzard, that's a huge force that causes a lot of change.
Yeah.
Not only that, but as a snowflake, would you consider me a snowflake? I'm curious.
No.
Okay. Is it just because I would punch you right in the nose if you called me one?
No. It's. I mean, that has something to do with it, but no, it's probably the fact that you aren't. Because of things like this, we sit here and we talk about. We have actual constructive conversation about these things. You don't sit there and protest or get up and leave because you don't like what's being said. You actually have a conversation. You actually talk it out. You explain why you don't agree with it, or you try to find a common ground. And that's the problem with these quote-unquote snowflakes is they're not looking for common ground. They're just looking to stomp their feet and have a tantrum. I'm like, look, people know you're fucking up. upset. We saw it on election night. We saw it every day fucking afterward, for God knows, pretty much up until this point. And you know what? Quite frankly, I'm personally tired of it, and I know there's a number of Americans that are tired of it too. Do you get your voice? Yes, you do. But you also have to grow up at some point, act like an adult or at least a responsible person, and go, you know what? Shit sucks. Let's actively work at being an effective agent of change instead of just sitting here and bitching about it every single day. So if you're going to sit there and disrespect somebody who was elected by the people versus whether you think it was the majority or not, doesn't matter. They were elected, an elected official who has an opinion, and they were speaking it. If you're going to get up and just walk out because you don't like it, instead of just sitting there with your arms folded like I would have done, if I didn't agree with the guy, if I don't agree with you, I'm just going to sit there with my arms folded, maybe give you a stank eye throughout the whole thing. But I'm not going to get up and walk out and stomp my feet in a tantrum. That's not how you act as an adult. And if that's how you're going to be, then my friends, the world has a rude ass awakening for everybody.
I can see that. No, I totally understand it. And I'm coming from a standpoint of as more of like a punk rocker per se.
Right.
I definitely am like, oh,
Right.
hell yeah.
Hell's
oh,
to the yeah.
yeah.
And
I
get
will
that.
fight the power.
I get
but
that.
I also do agree with you that, yeah, a more effective way would either be, well, because one that happened, I forget which protest it was, but they were protesting some speaker at a graduation a couple months ago. But this one, they didn't boo, and they didn't walk out of the room. All they did was they stood up and turned their backs. And I forget who that was, but that one I think was
it
really.
Betsy? Was that Betsy?
Oh no! Are you shitting me?
I
That would not have
I thought
been
it was
Betsy.
somebody big.
I'm surprised someone didn't throw a pie at her. but
yeah, I can see that's a little better. Because that way you're voicing your.
you're still present,
right?
But you're letting them know I don't like
agree with you.
I don't agree with
Right.
you, but I'm still present.
Right. And to a degree, I would say that's a lot more acceptable and tolerable than just getting up, stomping your feet, and walking out. I'm sorry, but if I was the dean of that particular school, I would have stopped the ceremonies for a minute. I would have said, okay, anybody else who walks out doesn't graduate. I'm serious. You don't get your diploma. The next person that walks out, you're done.
Yeah, no, the dean from the Betsy DeVos
Right.
speech. He tried that.
Did he?
Yeah, he tried to like threaten the students.
I would have made it a thing. You don't get your diplomas mailed. Never mind threatening.
So you're okay with like 5,000 college graduates just not getting their diplomas?
If you can't handle being an adult, you ain't getting your diploma. I mean, it's not that hard. You walk out, you disrespect, you can't handle because that to me is a sign that you can't handle adulthood.
So okay, well hang on a second. So you're saying then that if somebody who
Of course,
spends
most adults can't handle adulthood either.
right, exactly. So well, wait a second. So if somebody went to school for 4 years, kicked ass at all of their studies, got straight A's, 4.0 GPA, did all the extracurricular activities that they could do,
Right.
ended up doing, studying abroad, ended up becoming valedictorian, just literally no bad remarks, no bad records at all. They literally were so clean cut the entire time. And they did that one instance where they just stood up and walked out. You're telling me that person wouldn't be able to get their degree?
Yep.
Damn.
Because here's why.
I don't like you now.
I don't like it anymore. Well, no. Here's why. One, you're still technically under the jurisdiction of that official until you actually get your diploma and leave.
All right.
Yeah, they can be a douche about it, but what they say still technically goes. And two, again, if you can do all the extracurricular shit, you can GPO the fuck out of it. You can knock it out of the ballpark every single day while you're at school.
Right.
But if you prove to me that you're going to not handle things well, and if you're not going to be an adult, if you're going to be disrespectful, if you're going to throw a tantrum, if you're going to pitch a fit, and because here's the thing, I wouldn't start it immediately in the protest. It wouldn't be like, okay, everybody loses their diploma who walked out. I'd be like, okay, as people are filing out, I'd be like, all right, the next person who does it, I'm going to start cutting off diplomas. Watch people sit back down. If people know there's a consequence to their actions, which is honestly, I think, which is the problem with generations today, it's a whole other topic for another show.
No, that I agree. Consequences, that's something that really frustrates me, both on the right and on the left, is that so many people are like, oh, it's all about freedom of choice, and I can do whatever the hell I want.
Yeah, not
I'm
really.
protected by the Constitution. Right. Why do we consistently not remind human beings, okay, you have the right to do what you want. You do not have the right to dictate what consequence you're going to suffer. And it frustrates the hell out of me. Like, okay, I understand, and we can. I'm going to segue a little bit here into the Colin Kaepernick thing, because I know that has always been a hot button thing for
Let's
so
let's
many
talk
people.
about Colin Kaepernick.
You know, the problem with that, however, and we've had this discussion before, and I'll have it again because I love having this discussion with you.
It never gets old.
What he did, I actually appreciate what he did. And the reason I appreciate what he did is because he was exercising his right of freedom of choice, freedom of speech, such and such like that. I understand the response that he got. I understand the consequence that he had to face, and I understand that, you know, there was a lot of
Animosity?
a lot of animosity and a lot of frustration against him. However, and this is not just with Kaepernick, this is just with anybody. If you are backed so far into a corner where you feel like there is nothing else that you can do, obviously his response in what he did, kneeling during the national anthem, it makes sense to me. Because, and something that Jim and I had discussed a while ago was trying to figure out, okay, well, what else could Kaepernick have done that would have made more sense, that would have been the quote-unquote correct way? That would have been either, okay, well, let's go to talk to your state officials, talk to your state senators, your congressmen, talk to whoever, anybody. Go to the Supreme Court. Go to so many people, like really get out there and push yourself and say, hey, there is a ton of social injustice going on, and it needs to get taken care of immediately. The problem is that clearly over the last, I don't even know how long, but forever, both the executive, well, all three of them, the executive, the legislative, and the judicial branches have proven themselves to be so ambivalent to everything going on in this country. They will not listen to the voice of the people at all.
No argument there.
So why is it that we then demonize somebody who felt that he could not trust his government enough to go to them, that kneeling during the national anthem was the only choice that he had left?
Here's why I, on a personal level, quote-unquote, demonize the guy. I don't demonize what he did, why he did what he did. He was fully within his rights to protest because of what was happening. That's not in dispute. The issue that I had a problem with is how he went about doing it and what the target of his protest was. The target, Colin, was never America, who you protest, and who gave you such a fan-fucking-tastic career on the freedom to make millions of dollars doing what it is you love to do. The enemy was never the Star-Spangled Banner. The enemy wasn't the country which was developed for your freedom. The enemy, Colin, was those individuals and those groups and those organizations that failed you. Whether it's the police, whether it's your congressman, whether it's your individual mayors, senatorials, whether it's your I don't care who it is. Instead of going, like Payton was saying, instead of going to your congressman or protesting outside the police department or city hall or someplace like that, which I could 110% understand. Instead of that, Colin Kaepernick focused his ire and his frustration and his animosity and his frankly ill-placed protest at the flag, which represents, again, a country that gave him all the opportunities, which includes protesting and not getting shot like you would in a third world country. So again, I think I have no problem with why he was doing what he was doing. I have every problem with exactly how he executed that protest in the end, personally.
So what's the right way to protest then?
Like what I just said, the right way to protest is to go to the source. If there's a problem with the police, you go to the police commissioner or the police department and you protest and you write them, or you write your congressman, or you write your senators, or you make your voice heard in some other fashion that's not taking down the flag in some disrespectful way. I mean, go to the source. The problem with Kaepernick's protest is it was sort of a catch-all. It's like, well, I'm protesting the flag. Why don't you focus on what you actually need to protest, which is whether it's the cops, whether it's these organizations that don't, whether they're anti-African American. Again, I don't. But see, that's the problem. I can't even remember what he was protesting because of how he protested. It was so inflammatory.
It was the social injustice that had been happening at the time against African American.
Okay.
And more specifically, the Black Lives Matter movement.
Right. Well, all right. Well, in that case, again, you go to your congressman, you go to the police chiefs, you go to whomever it is you regard, not the flag, but whoever it is you think you need to go to individually, the source, the ultimate be-all, end-all, sitting there or kneeling there on a field, not saluting the flag that was protected for people who die so you have the right to protest, makes no sense to me.
But I also appreciated that there were a ton of Army vets and people in active service that respected what he did as well. Because they said, that's right, he does have the right to do
He's
that.
got the right. I'm not. The argument is never does Kaepernick have the right to do it.
Right.
My argument is, was it smart? And I would argue no.
Right, but that's the problem, is that when people are backed into a corner, you don't make a smart choice, you make a survivalist choice.
Okay. Yeah, but with that analogy, it's like saying you're getting backed into a corner by... I'm trying to make a good analogy here, but you're basically getting backed into a corner by a group of thugs, and instead of, kicking them in the crotch and going to the source, you spit in the eye of an old woman that walks by. I mean, I don't know. It just
Yeah, that analogy makes no sense.
It makes no sense. I was trying to find a decent analogy that I can line up. Fucking cut that out of the
I appreciate
podcast.
the effort, though. That was nice.
It was C+ for effort. But my point is, he just went about it the wrong way. He went about it in the wrong fashion. I get what he was trying to do. Yes, he has 100% right to protest. He didn't protest the right people. He didn't protest the right source. He didn't go to where the actual agent of change.
So you're saying then what it sounds like is that you would.
And then he
rather...
wears a freaking Che shirt the next
the Che Guevara
shirt the next fucking week and expects me to take him seriously. But sorry, go ahead, continue on with the saying.
Okay, so you're telling me then that you would rather seen him go through the steps of what you believe proper protesting would have been, and if nothing actually changed, then you would be okay with him kneeling during the Star Spangled Banner.
More so, yes. Had he actually gone through the steps,
because that way he would have at least gone through the steps.
right? And if nothing happened, and we saw, let's say for sake of argument, he actually went to town hall.
You would have at least liked to see him try.
See him try. Let's say he goes to all of this, and we see on TV nothing's happening. Nobody's listening to him. They're kind of giving the proverbial finger. All right. Then when he kneels, I get it. I get why he's kneeling. I'm like, okay, you know what? You guys left him no choice.
Yeah.
You left him no other option. He tried all of the doors. They were all locked. This is the only one that was open. He's got to make a statement somewhere. He feels so compelled that that's what he's going to do. Fine. I don't like it. I don't agree with it, but there it is. But he didn't bother to do that. He didn't bother to do
right, because
to do
again,
that.
but again, going back to that is that he felt like he couldn't.
But he wasn't. I don't care if you feel like you couldn't. He wasn't. The reality of the situation was he wasn't actually backed into a corner. He had at least half a dozen different outlets that he could have protested in different ways that he could have done it.
But he doesn't trust the government to take care of these things. It's like going like, okay, well, if you want to do something, either I'm gonna come up with a shit analogy.
It's the
Let's
beer.
say if you want to go and get a cookie or I don't know, buy a video game or something like that. But the problem is that the only way that you can achieve this thing that you want is to work with somebody you don't trust. Like, what would you do that?
Well, what's my only other option besides working with this guy I don't trust?
Steal the damn cookie.
Well, steal the cookie's not a good option.
Right, but
I'm going to face bigger consequences and bigger blowback from stealing it versus this guy I don't trust. See what I'm saying? If I steal the cookie, here's the holes in your analogy, my friend. If I steal the cookie,
I told you it was.
Right?
I already prefaced it was going to be a shit analogy.
Although it was marginally better than mine, so kudos. My only other option is to steal and to again potentially face massive blowback, which is what ended up happening to good old Colin. Is he faced potentially career-damaging blowback. If my only other option is either trust this guy that might be shady, I don't know, or do this thing that's going to get me wrecked, I'll trust the guy I don't. I'll not trust, but I'll go to the guy that I don't necessarily trust first, and then if he's a complete D-bag, which we've run into those in our personal lives, then we can go, okay, this guy's not doing what he's supposed to do.
Right.
Now let's do it my way. That's what I would. And that was my problem with Colin from minute one.
Again, I'm definitely all about his, what he wanted to do, and not only that, but you do know that the original draft of the Star Spangled Banner has segments that promote slavery, right?
Dude, everybody was promoting slavery back then.
I know. It's in there.
Yeah.
It's there.
Yeah.
So I mean,
but is it there now?
Oh no, it was one of the first drafts of it.
Is it there now?
Trying to make me look like an idiot.
I'm just asking you a question. Is it there now?
It's not there now.
Well, then what's the problem? What's the current problem?
The current problem
with the not with the country, because we could be here forever.
I don't think
what's
there really
the
is a
current
problem.
with
I'm just stating a fact,
and it's a good fact. It's a great historical fact.
Yeah.
Take note, kids.
Not an alternative.
Not everything, right? Alternative facts done right. Remember, kids. Not everything about history is fun. That's fine, but that's not what the Star Spangled Banner is now.
For sure. And obviously, you know, when it was implemented as our national anthem, people looked at that and went, maybe we should omit that part.
Right? That might be a little bit inflammatory.
I don't know about that.
At some
so.
point, right? That's not good.
Yeah.
So
that
again,
might work.
No,
I agree. I agree with his choice, but yeah, I mean, obviously the consequences, and that's the gist of it that we definitely come to an agreement on, is that the consequences, like you're not free from your consequences, good or bad. Because there are good consequences,
right.
but you got to face them.
And look at what happened to Colin because of the consequences.
Oh, he got totally flacked.
Right?
It was ridiculous.
Not only did he get flacked, but let's put it this way: his career is not going to be the same.
No. Not
And
at all.
that's why I say, are you willing to go through the steps to try to get it to happen, or you're going to go straight for the jugular and possibly lose everything? I would like to err on the side of caution before potentially ruining my career,
Yeah.
which is what he ended up doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is it worth it? Maybe it's worth it to him. Maybe it's completely worth it.
But you and I both know as artists that whenever you work off your emotions, logic is going to evade you.
Yep.
And sometimes that happens, you know.
Yeah.
Not justifying it, but
No.
you know, when you're rolling off of emotions, you know, it's going to happen.
You're not listening to reason when you got emotions.
Yeah.
And that was Colin's problem. It was pure raw emotion.
But at the same time, you know, when you could run logically in your head everything that you want to do. And sometimes you just got to go with your gut.
Sometimes, unless your gut is telling you to step out in front of a bus that's barreling down you at 45 miles an hour,
Yeah,
and
then you punch your gut in the face
and tell it to shut up.
and tell shut the fuck
Take a
up,
seat.
gut. I don't know. No.
So, sorry, Colin. We'll see you at the playoffs, maybe.
I appreciate you, Colin.
Better luck next time. Let's take a quick
So-
let's take a quick break, and then
All right.
we'll
wrap it up.
We'll wrap it up for you guys. Thanks for hanging with us, everybody.
Woo!
Hang tight.
All right. Welcome back
Hey.
to Star Spangled Banter. So, we're at the end of our podcast now, so we figured we'd wrap things up with our inaugural episode here with
Serious note.
kind of a serious note from us, because I mean we're having fun with it, and we want to have fun with it, and we want you guys to be able to have fun with it, and hopefully that you have enjoyed the last hour and a half of us just ripping this country a new one. But on a serious note, I mean, every day we are just consistently bombarded with news headlines and images, sound bites, just thousands of voices telling us just a million different facts. And they always think that they're always right.
Yep.
So with all this overwhelming information, I mean, it honestly, like, the truth it's consistently getting buried beneath just a landslide of personal and political agendas. So as Americans, I think that there's a need for a place where we can escape the noise and discover the truth for ourselves. And that's kind of like the mission statement for us, is that even though we may not have the truth, we may not know the truth, hopefully we can provide a more sane way to look at truth or to find the truth, especially coming from two different sides of the aisle.
Exactly.
We want to be able to show that, look, we can all find the truth, whether we agree or disagree with each other.
And listen, if someplace, two friends on either side of the aisle happen to be listening to us together, and they've found something to agree on, then you know what? We've done our job. That's what Star Spangled Banter is all about.
Mm-hmm.
It's bringing two sides together, in common agreement, and growing with that.
We need to know that it's okay to disagree and still be united.
Exactly.
That's how it's always been. That's how it's been since day one, you know.
And it's how it should be till the end of time.
Exactly.
So.
I mean, think about it. Like 1776. We're on July 2nd, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That was literally like over 200 years ago.
Yep. 200, 230. I mean, relatively infant in the broad scheme of things, but you know what? Not far enough away that we should forget.
Yeah, that's how it was all those years ago.
Exactly.
That they disagreed on a multitude, on a myriad of issues, and yet they still came together. They still united, and they still created this crazy, amazing, goddamn country that we all love and tolerate.
Exactly.
So thank you so much for tuning in. We hope to see you again. Any last words, Jim?
Just stay cool, America. Leave the crazy to us.
Oh yeah.
See ya. Peace.